Atop the tallest of earth's peaks dwell the gods of earth, and suffer no man to tell that he hath looked upon them. Lesser peaks they once inhabited, but ever the men from the plains would scale the slopes of rock and snow, driving the gods to higher and higher mountains, till now only the last remains. When they left their older peaks, they took with them all signs of themselves. Say, once, it is said, when they left a carven image on the face of the mountain, which they called Greenock. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and gender non-conforming people. My name is Andrew Carr, and welcome back once again to the newest episode of the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. Now, honesty compels me to tell y'all that this is my second attempt to record a review of this story, because I recorded one last night, which, if this episode comes out when it should come out, it was when last night I recorded both episodes of Nameless City and this story, The Other Gods, but sound issues in the Other Gods file. So anyway, so I'm sort of doing another retake, and yeah, so today we will be talking about, as I said, The Other Gods. Now, The Other Gods is an interesting story because I feel like this is one that is more intrinsically connected to the dream cycle, or at least the dream lands, like in terms of actual like locations and places and locations and places are the same thing, but like in terms of it's more set in the Dreamlands universe instead of just having sort of dreams as like thematics and stuff. The story is quite simple. It follows a man named Barzai the Wise, who is learned in the ways of the gods, and decides to scale a mountain in order to sort of look upon them, because he's so learned in their ways that surely his knowledge of them won't hurt him, and it will keep him safe. And so he brings along a young man named Atal with him, and Lovecraft stuff ensues. I actually really like this story, as I said in Nameless City. But I actually think I kind of like this one a little bit more. In fact, I think this one is actually one of my favorites so far of the dream cycle. And I think the reason for that is because of the connections it makes with other stories in the actual Dreamlands. You see, because, and I'll actually sort of go through the story real quick. It's a really short story. So it says, after the paragraph I read at the beginning, it says, "But now they have betaken themselves to unknown Kadath, in the cold waste where no man treads, and are grown stern, having no higher peak whereto to flee at the coming of man. They are grown stern, and where once they suffered men to displace them, they now forbid men to come, or coming to depart. It is well for men that they know not of Kadath in the cold waste, else they would seek injudiciously to scale it." So the gods live. So we're getting early on references to the dream quest of unknown Kadath, which is kind of like the culminating story of the Dreamlands, or at least one of them, because that's where the gods dwell, and that's where we'll get there when we get to Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. Another connection that's in this one is that, in a way, it's kind of a follow-up to the Cats of Ulthar. Now, if you remember the Cats of Ulthar, that was the one set in Ulthar, where the old man and his wife were slaying cats, and there was a law passed to forbid the slaying of cats because of supernatural things. Yeah, this in a way I think is a follow-up to it, because it follows characters who live in Ulthar. So there's Barzai the Wise, and then actually, funny enough, Atal, from my research yesterday, again, when I first recorded this episode yesterday, Atal did show up in the Cats of Ulthar, I think, as a younger person. So now I think we're getting a slightly older Atal. So I think that's kind of a neat connection. Um, so yeah, so I love the connections. I think also the imagination of Lovecraft really comes through here. How phenomena that we humans know are kind of reflective of actions of the gods. So like the gods, sometimes they descend from Kadath to the mountains where they used to dwell, and they play and all sorts of things. They come down in cloud ships, which is pretty neat. Um, and so like the tears of the gods are like rain, and like the sighs of the gods are like wind, and you know, the mists are the memories of the gods and stuff like that. And I just thought that was a really sort of cool way to in the dreamlands, essentially, to explain kind of the logic of how gods work in that sort of fashion and how they impact the world they live in. Um, so yeah, I think those were the points that I originally made in the first recording that I did of this. Um, I think also another thing that I really like, the story is very, very fast paced. It's only like 5 pages, but it really does go when it gets going, which is something that I've noticed with H.P. Lovecraft stories. I've brought up time and time again how he sometimes uses really archaic language to sort of describe actions in stories, and that kind of brings me out of the story a little bit. I found in the shorter ones, he doesn't, or at least in this case, he doesn't really, he does use some of that archaic language, but it's not as prevalent here as it is in maybe some of the other ones. It is still kind of archaically written, but it's a bit more handleable here in this one. So yeah, so I think that's mostly it for the other gods. If I was to rank this, I'd probably give it the same rating that I originally gave it in my original attempt at this video. I will give the Outer Gods an S tier because when I first read it, I really, really, really did like the imagination. I liked more of the explicit connections in the dreamlands, sort of tying the dream cycle more and more together as we keep going. And yes, it's definitely a recommend. I definitely recommend reading maybe Cats of Ulthar before it, but at the same time, if only just to get the references to Ulthar and all that stuff. But anyway, so that was the other gods. I really liked it, and our next story is Ex Oblivion, or Ex Oblivion. It will be our next story when we come back again. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and gender non-conforming folks, my name is Andrew Carr. This has been the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. See ya.